It's going to be the litmus test, in many ways the defining moment for Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. Can the Indian economy continue to grow and expand even as the world fights inflation and possibly even a recession? Can India continue to be the fastest growing major economy, creating jobs and prosperity, and at the same time keep inflation in check? Well, Sitharaman believes she has the formula to keep the Indian economy humming. She plans to keep the Indian growth story on track through an ambitious capital expenditure or CAPEX program this fiscal. Now keep in mind that the Modi government's ambitious CAPEX plans come in the backdrop of a rethink on big government spending in the developed world, particularly the United States. But clearly, that has not discouraged Sitharaman. So what is capital expenditure or CAPEX? It refers to investments on upgrading existing or building new physical assets by the government or private businesses. These assets are your factories, buildings, machines, computers, and so on. Now, as businesses expand, CAPEX has a multiplier effect on the economy, creating demand and unleashing animal spirits. Sitharaman and her team is hoping that a thrust on CAPEX will ease supply chain bottlenecks and revive demand as well. So while CAPEX can add to the productive capacities of the economy, boosting long-term growth, it will also spur job creation and consumption. It was a strategy the government adopted to shield the economy as much as possible from the impact of the pandemic. It was a trend seen in other countries as well. Now Sitharaman and her team is already walking the talk. In the last budget, the government announced a big jump of 27% in the government's planned CAPEX for this fiscal. Crucially, Sitharaman hopes government spending will crowd in or suck in private CAPEX into the economy. The government has ambitious plans to exponentially ramp up spending on expressways, logistics parks, metro systems and housing. Much of this work will be sourced out to private contractors. So how times change? For long, the government has been wary of excessive borrowing and spending, even on CAPEX, worried about crowding out the private sector. But clearly, there is a change in mindset at North Block now. Indeed, Sitharaman's team has tried to dispel any concerns of the government eating into the private sector's share of national savings. Only last year, then SEBI whole-time member G. Mahalingam had asserted that government borrowing crowds out all the corporate bond market. Krishnamurthy Subramanian, then Chief Economic Advisor, asserted it's a specious argument, adding that if the government spends more, it pushes growth and also increases savings, leading to a crowding in of private investment. Now, private investment has been comatose since the global financial crisis in 2008, largely due to the twin balance sheet crisis in banking and corporate sector. To revive private investments, particularly in manufacturing, the government has taken a raft of measures in recent years, from the GST and the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, or the IBC, to the thrust on infrastructure creation and corporate tax rate cuts. So far, nothing has worked, perhaps in some measure due to the pandemic. Globally, aggressive fiscal and monetary policies kept economies afloat during the pandemic. Simply, the governments went on a spending spree while central banks cut benchmark rates to stimulate demand. This may have triggered a possible overheating of the global economy, leading to an inflationary surge, believe some economists. There is now a rethink in the developed world on big government spending, as I said earlier. In the US, for instance, President Biden is now talking about reining in government stimulus to tamp down inflation. Sitharaman, on her part, is trying to keep deficits in check by trimming government subsidies, including on Manrega, a politically contentious move. The Reserve Bank has already begun raising repo rates to rein in demand-pull inflation, but the inflationary spike in India, remember, is in part a consequence of global supply-side bottlenecks triggering a rise in commodity prices. A normal monsoon will further help in easing the elevated food prices. Sitharaman also has allayed concerns around inflation, arguing India is better placed than other countries.